Welcome back. We're going to be continuing in section 1.1.3, the first movements toward rebellion. A shift in the heart of one once perfect. Before the unseen war erupted, before shamaym, watchers, descended, before the harmony of creation trembled, there was a moment, quiet, unnoticed by any created being, when something changed within the heart of the one once called perfect. He who had walked among the stones of fire, who had been adorned with brilliance, who had stood closest to the throne of Alua, felt within himself a stirring that was not placed there by Yahuwah. It began not as rebellion, not as defiance, but as a whisper, a thought, a yearning, a question born of pride.
Why should the creature of dust receive honor that I, made of esteem, do not?
The seeds of rebellion do not begin as war. They begin as dissatisfaction. They begin as envy dressed as logic, as pride disguised as justice, as ambition clothed in questions about fairness. This was the beginning. The burden of proximity. The being who would soon become the adversary was not created wicked. He was created radiant. He was created wise. He was created with purpose beyond measure. As a shamar malak, a watcher messenger, himself. His place near the throne was not punishment. It was privilege. But proximity to esteem carries a weight that few can bear. The nearer one stands to the light, the sharper the shadow cast by pride. Yahaskel 28:12-15. You were the seal of completeness, filled with wisdom and perfect in beauty. You were perfect in your ways from the day you were created, until unrighteousness was found in you. He was not tempted by another. He did not fall because of external evil. He fell because evil grew from within, fed by admiration of his own splendor. He beheld his beauty, and he loved it. He measured his brilliance, and he exalted it. He watched the host of Shamaym honor him, and he desired more. The heart that once bowed willingly now yearned for a throne of its own. The offense of dust and destiny. The moment that crystallized his corruption was the announcement, still echoing through the high courts of the Shamaym, that Yahuwah would create man, a creature of dust, a creature made from the lowest substance of creation, yet destined for crown and authority, a creature whose form would bear the image of Alua, in ways no being of the Shamaym ever had. And he, who had basked in esteem from the moment of his creation, beheld the destiny of humanity and felt his heart twist. Envy is a quiet poison. It does not roar, it whispers. His reasoning turned dark.
If man is to rule, what becomes of my place? If the dust-bearer is exalted, what of my splendor? If he is loved, then what am I?
The first lie ever spoken. The fall began not with action, but with comparison, not with defiance, but with entitlement. The first deception in creation was not spoken to mankind. It was not uttered in the Gan, or garden. It did not slither through the branches of a tree. It was spoken internally, quietly, within the heart of the anointed guardian.
I deserve more.
That was the first lie, a lie directed at himself, a lie born of pride, a lie that contradicted the truth that all honor, all position, all esteem belong to Yahuwah alone. Rebellion always begins with a lie believed, and the most deadly lies are the ones that we tell ourselves. The atmosphere before the storm. In the unseen realm, nothing appeared different. There was no tremor, no sign of impending fracture, no darkness in the skies of the Shamaym. Harmony continued. The Shamarim, or watchers, kept watch, and the Mala'akim, or messengers, carried out their tasks. The court convened in ordered majesty. The host of the Shamaym sang in radiant unity, but beneath that harmony lay a tension undetected by every being except the one who sees all hearts. For Yahuwah knew. He who discerns thought from afar saw the storm forming in the secret places of pride. He who cannot be deceived perceived the crack beginning to form in the highest of his creations. He watched, he waited, he allowed the heart to reveal itself fully. Rebellion was not merely an act, It was a transformation, a distortion, a corruption, a departure from truth. The great fracture was drawing near. The moment the shamaym trembled, when silence broke in the unseen realm, there came a moment, the moment creation would remember for ages uncounted, when silence fell upon the unseen realm. It was not the silence of worship or the pause between songs of yada or praise. It was a silence born of tension, of something unseen but deeply felt. Every being in shamaym sensed it, a disturbance, a shift, a tremor, not in the foundations of creation, but in the spiritual fabric of a once perfect heart. The harmony of the shamaym host, so steady, so radiant, felt a strain, like a single instrument in a vast orchestra drifting off pitch. Most did not know its cause. They only felt the change, like the air itself had thickened. Yet one knew, only one. The eyes of Yahuwah searched where no created being could see. He perceived the intentions forming in secret. He watched pride crystallize into defiance. The shamaym did not yet shake outwardly, but the heart of rebellion now beat within the one who once walked among the stones of fire. The thought that became defiance. As the shamaym order continued its function, the anointed guardian stood among the hosts, radiating with the beauty he had been given. But beneath that beauty burned something anew, an intensity, a hunger, a restless fire that did not come from Yahuwah. What had begun as jealousy had hardened into ambition. What had begun as longing had become entitlement. What had begun as dissatisfaction had matured into a plan. He no longer wondered. He no longer questioned. He desired. He willed. He chose. And though he had not yet spoken his rebellion aloud, rebellion had already become his identity. Yeshayahu 14:12-14. You said in your heart, I will ascend to the shamaym. I will raise my throne above the stars of Alua. I will sit upon the mount of meeting. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. This was no mere thought. It was a coronation in his imagination, a self-anointing, a self-throning, a self-exaltation. Rebellion became complete in the heart before a single action revealed it. The confrontation that shook the courts. The moment finally arrived. Yahuwah summoned the shamaym assembly. The sons of Alua gathered. The shamarim, or watchers, stood in their ranks. The throne burned with fire and radiance. He who would rebel stood among them, not as an enemy, not yet, but as one whose heart had already departed. The day the first light fell. This was a day unlike any other in the existence of creation, a day when esteem was removed, when radiance was dimmed, when the highest of the beings of the shamaym fell from the place he once inhabited. The unseen realm had witnessed many wonders, the crafting of the cosmos, the birth of the stars, the establishment of law and order, the rising of yada, praise, like waves before the throne. But it had never witnessed a fall, not until now. The one who had once walked among the stones of fire, the one whose beauty reflected the craftsmanship of Yahuwah himself, the one whose voice had once harmonized with the songs of the morning stars. He stood condemned by his own desire. What began in secret was about to be exposed before all creation. The sentence. Yahuwah gathered the host of the shamaym to discuss the hidden thoughts of the most esteemed of all created beings. Only Alua knew what was happening, yet every being sensed the growing tension. When Yahuwah spoke the judgment, his words carried the weight of eternity. They cut through the shamaym with authority that no creature could question and no rebel could withstand. A decree went forth, exposing what had been hidden, and this decree was final. Yahaskal 28:17-18. Your heart was lifted up because of your beauty. You corrupted your wisdom for the sake of your splendor. I cast you to the ground. I expose you before sovereigns. I bring fire from your midst, it shall devour you, and I turn you into ashes upon the Arats, before the eyes of all who see you. This was not annihilation, but humiliation. Not destruction of being, but destruction of status. Not the end of existence, but the end of exaltation. The rebel who dreamed of enthronement now faced the reality of exile, and the court of the Shamaym trembled. This was the first judgment in creation. This was the unveiling of evil. This was the moment the unseen realm realized that perfection could fall. No being had ever witnessed such a thing. No being had imagined it possible. No being yet understood the consequences of this fracture, but all felt its impact. The host divided. As the judgment was spoken, creation held its breath. Some of the beings of the Shamaym surely recoiled in shock. Others bowed in reverence to the justice of Yahuwah. A few, only a few at first, looked upon the fallen guardian with conflicted admiration, swayed by his beauty, his charisma, his former honor. This was the moment the unseen war began. Not with swords, not with violence, but with alignment. Some aligned with truth. Some aligned with pride. The division was not yet visible, but the loyalties of the heart began to split. The unseen realm, once united in perfect harmony, now carried within it the first fracture lines of cosmic war. The Shamaym tremble for the first time. As Yahuwah finished his decree, a tremor, not physical, not spatial, but spiritual, rolled across the unseen realm. It was the trembling of order encountering rebellion, the trembling of righteousness confronting corruption, the tremble of the host of the Shamaym realizing that free will carries consequences. This was the first moment in all existence when the Shamaym truly feared, for they understood, if one so exalted could fall, then rebellion was possible, darkness was possible, war was possible, and the destiny of creation would never again be touched by this moment. The Shamaym had trembled, and the story of redemption had begun. The casting out of the first rebel, and the violence of removal. Beings of the Shamaym do not fall gently. Their removal is not quiet. It is a rending, a violent rupture between what was and what now must be. The moment Yahuwah issued his decree, the spiritual order shifted. The authority that once flowed through the rebel's being was severed. The radiance that once emanated from him dimmed. The honor he once wore like a garment fell away like ashes. His presence, once harmonious with the Shamaym court, became discordant, a stain upon a realm of perfect righteousness. And so, he was cast out, not by force of numbers, not by strength of armies, not by violent uprising, but by the word of the Most High, Eluah. Yashayahu 14:15. But you shall be brought down to Sheol, to the recesses of the pit. He who attempted ascent experienced descent. He who sought the throne was thrust toward the dust. He who desired to be like the Most High was shown the distance between creature and creator. The hosts witnessed the fall. As the rebel was cast out, the host of Shamaym stood in awe. Some trembled at the display of justice. Others mourned the loss of one who once walked in splendor. Still others felt their loyalty harden, their devotion deepen, their fear of disobedience sharpen. For the first time, they saw the consequence of rebellion, and this sight was terrible. Those who had wavered in allegiance now chose their side. Some aligned with Yahuwah fully, committing themselves to righteousness with renewed conviction. Others, influenced by the fallen one's persuasion, followed him willingly into exile. This was the beginning of division, the first fracture of the family of the Shamaym. The descent into lostness. When he was cast out, he did not fall into a place prepared for him, for such a place did not exist yet. He fell into exile, into displacement, into the outer realms where distance from Yahuwah became his torment and fuel. This situation was particularly ironic, as the being who desired his own throne and considered it unfair for a creature made of dust to be elevated to royalty was now relegated to the very location where the newly appointed creature would rule. He went from esteem to lacking favor, from honor to contempt, from brilliance to shadow. The fall was not merely positional, it reshaped his identity. He who had been the guardian, the shining, enlightened one, the anointed Karub, or cherub, now became the adversary. The one who had once harmonized with Yada, praise, in the Shamaym, now became the voice of accusation, deception, and destruction. The Arats becomes the stage of his war. Once cast out, the rebel did not disappear. He redirected his ambition. If he could not exalt himself in Shamaym, he would corrupt that which Yahuwah loved on Arats. If he could not ascend to the throne, he would attempt to drag the royal image bearers down with him. Chazon 12:9. And the great dragon was thrown out, the ancient serpent called the adversary, the accuser, Hashatan, who leads the whole world astray. He was thrown to the Arats, and his shamarim, or watchers, were thrown with him. This is not the final casting, but the continuation of the first exile. The rebel Hashatan's new mission became clear. Oppose the purposes of Yahuwah, corrupt the image of Yahuwah in mankind, deceive the nations, establish counterfeit authority, wage war against the righteous. His scheme would gradually manifest throughout history in the most deceptive manner. His cunning would result in an unintentional loyalty to his desires. His objective would be to sever humanity from their Creator by any means necessary, with his plan commencing during his decline from favor, his fall from esteem. His fall was catastrophic, but his hatred afterward was worse. The unseen realm reels. When the casting was complete, the unseen realm felt an aftershock, the kind that lingers long after the ground stops shaking. Harmony had been broken. Unity had been breached. A new reality existed within creation. Rebellion was possible, and because it was possible, redemption would be necessary. The first rebel had been cast out, but the greatest story of mercy and justice was only just beginning to unfold. This concludes section 1.1.3, the first movements toward rebellion, and continues into section 1.2.1, the rebellion of the Shamarim and the aftermath of the Shamari fall.